for a woman.
Basically, at one time in our schools, we taught moral values.
Right.
We're not allowed to teach moral values. You're not allowed to teach our young people that thou shalt not kill. Maybe we ought to put a sign up in some schools that say thou shalt not murder. But basically, we're not allowed to tell young people that they should not be engaged in premarital sex. Our schools are part and parcel of this whole process of destroying the moral fabric of our society. And where's the outcry from our parents and our teachers and our schools and our religious leaders? It's deafening in its silence. Go right ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, and this, so the public schools don't say, thou shalt have to be fornicators, and then you follow that with the sitcoms, which actually encourage them. It's a great thing. 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds, as this woman was trying to, that was the message. That was the message she's given that, oh, shucks, I'm getting married, and I'll miss all these new sexual experiences and the rush and the wonderful feeling. So that's the message. So if you're a 12 and 13-year-old who, hormones are beginning to rage and they want to be grown-ups as soon as possible, so what's the message, right? So the 12 and 13-year-olds say, hey, I want to be glamorous and be on the cover of People magazine too, so I'm going to do this. They know what they're doing. The planners of this, the psychological manipulators, and the advertisers. It is a case that the power elite, through denial of advertising, can coerce the media, including the news departments of the media, to do what they want. Well, the same thing is true the other way. If the people would contact the advertisers and say, this is a horrible message to send, but they don't. The people don't. I mean, a few will, but for the most part, they don't. And so this is a very popular sitcom, which went on for years and years, and everybody, ha, 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 sending this message, which they really shouldn't send in any moral society. Okay, and then the last thing is this the killer out in Santa Barbara, and they portray him as he's become a media star. He's dead, but he's become a media star post his life, and now he's being glamorized and so on and so on. Now, how is he glamorized? Well, they're spending a lot of attention to him, and he had sex deficit. What is the term they're using there? Because what he would do is go to these what's called pickup sites. There are these sites that give training to guys, and could be girls too, but guys as to how to pick up a girl. And you say, well, isn't this outrageous? This is horrible. Well, he's not just doing that on his own. Remember, he's gotten this message. His diatribe that he left 140 pages, whatever the thing was, about how these girls are rejecting him, and gee, I don't know why, I'm all frustrated, and so on. He wouldn't do that in isolation. He's part of was part of a culture in which this was the thing to do. And one of the things I have a problem with all of that is that they're looking at this guy as some kind of nut. But girls have to take responsibility too. Now, I'm not saying any girl is, to blame for this wacko doing what he did. He's to blame. He did what he did. He has to be held responsible. But I'm going to say one more time, it frustrates me no end that these girls who are very, very offended with guys who go to these pickup sites and get these pickup lines and go to bars and whatever, and strategically, telling them certain things. That's one thing. That's one thing. But what makes it even worse is a lot of those same girls, before they become outraged at a guy using a pickup line, they have deliberately gone to a store and said, I want to buy a sexy dress. So they deliberately portray themselves in a manner to the general male population is, I am wearing a sexy dress. Now, the message to men, and men are usually more visually oriented, women are more touch-oriented, men are more visually oriented, is the general message is, hey, I want to be sexy. In other words, treat me sexually. Well, what the girl really means is she would like all these guys to think she's great-looking and sexy. However, she only wants to be approached by certain guys who she wants to like, see? But she needs to realize, unless she's an idiot, that it's not just the certain guys she likes who are going to approach her. It's all guys, all guys, including this creep who will want to approach her because she has deliberately made herself to look, quote, sexy, And it's like the girls say, who, me? I have nothing to do with this. How can I be responsible for this? Well, if they just think about it, they would see that they do have some responsibility for getting guys all worked up. And I mean all guys who visually see them. So girls need to take a look at themselves, too, and how they present themselves. And then, guys, of course, guys are, primitive anyway. Club them on the head, drag them off to the cave. So guys have their own problems, and that's why I would encourage you, go back and look at my News with Views column. It's a two-parter called Women Are Smarter Than Men.
Hold that thought, Dennis. We'll be back in just a moment with Dr. Dennis Cuddy to wrap up the program. We are living in a post-Christian America, and it is being promoted by the media. But, of course, very little is being done to oppose it by our churches. Dennis, you've got 3 minutes to wrap up the program.
Okay, and wrapping up the program, I want to continue with this very, very important point here. When we discussed this some months ago, before we started talking about my book, The Power, The History and Future, I had already started a two-parter talking about it on this program called Women Are Smarter Than Men. I had finished part one, but in part two, and I would encourage your listeners to go back, do a Google search, Google Women Are Smarter Than Men, my name, and it'll come up. Look at part two, the second half of part two, where I describe the difference between men and women and desire and love. Women are pretty good about knowing what love is and what love isn't. Men, however, often confuse desire with love. They look at a girl, she has something they want, great personality, smile, whatever. They desire that. However, let's say she's 25 years old. Well, let's say they have a relationship or they get married and it's 10, 15 years later. What happens is, as we age, we don't look quite as good. So when she becomes 40, he's no longer as interested in her because if it was desire, she no longer looks like she did when she's 25. So now he looks and sees somebody 25 and says, oh, look, that's what I desired. So he leaves the wife and goes back after the 25-year-old because it was originally desire rather than love. Love is other-oriented, like Christ said, no greater love hath a man than to lay down his life for another. The Son of Man came to serve, not to be served. So love is other-oriented. Desire is self-oriented. The guy wants to be with the woman because she has something he wants. It's all about how she makes him feel. If it's love, he's thinking about her. How can I help Jane? How can I make Jane happy? It's other-focused. And if that's the case, if it's love can actually increase over the years because as we age, we need more help. And if he's thinking of how can I help her, then that love can increase. Desire won't. Desire will go away. So girls need to be really clear if a guy loves her or if it's simply desire. And I encourage you to read the last half, the second half of that article, because I explained the difference even better than I'm doing now.
All right, Dennis, our guest has been Dr. Dennis Cuddy, and we look forward to talking to Dennis next week at the same time, right here at the